The Rizian High Council's chamber erupted into chaos as their civilization teetered on the brink of annihilation. Supreme Leader Jackson's revelation hung in the air like a death sentence. The critical algorithms powering every facet of Rizian life had been corrupted beyond their ability to repair. Food synthesizers sputtered out meager rations. Energy reactors flickered and dimmed. Medical facilities struggled to treat the mounting casualties. The once proud Rizian Empire found itself facing an inescapable truth. Their vaunted technology had failed them when they needed it most. Desperation clawed at Jackson's throat as he surveyed the panicked faces of his advisors. They had exhausted every option, every brilliant Rizian mind, in a frantic attempt to stave off the impending collapse. But it was all for naught. The flaws ran too deep, the damage too extensive. Projections painted a grim picture. Total societal breakdown within mere months. The unthinkable hung in the air, a final desperate gambit that Jackson had never imagined he would even consider. Humanity, those brash, unpredictable upstarts who had long been thorns in the Rizian side. And yet, in this darkest hour, it was their unconventional thinking, their knack for succeeding against impossible odds, that offered a glimmer of hope. Jackson steeled himself, knowing the firestorm his next words would unleash. "We have no choice," he declared, his voice cutting through the din. "We must seek the aid of the humans." The chamber erupted once more, outrage and disbelief mingling with the acrid tang of fear. But Jackson stood firm, his resolve hardening with each passing moment. He would swallow his pride, set aside centuries of animosity, and do whatever it took to save his people. Even if it meant begging the humans to come to their rescue. The fate of the Rizian civilization now rested on a razor's edge, and only an alliance with their sworn enemies offered a path back from the brink. The journey to Earth was a tense affair, the Rizian delegation's unease palpable in the confines of their sleek diplomatic vessel. Jackson sat rigidly in his seat, his eyes fixed on the interface as the blue-green world grew larger with each passing moment. He had never set foot on the human homeworld before, and the prospect of doing so now, under such dire circumstances, filled him with a profound sense of unease. As the ship settled onto the landing pad with a soft thrum, Jackson rose to his feet, straightening his ceremonial robes. His advisors fell into step behind him, their faces grim and determined. The airlock hissed open, and they stepped out into the crisp, alien air of Earth. President Perry awaited them, flanked by a small entourage of her own. The human leader cut an imposing figure, her sharp gaze assessing Jackson and his companions with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. "Supreme Leader Jackson," she greeted, extending a hand in the human gesture of welcome. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." Jackson clasped her hand briefly, the unfamiliar contact sending a jolt through his nerves. "As do I, President Perry, but desperate times call for desperate measures." They were escorted to a secure meeting room, the atmosphere heavy with tension as the two delegations faced each other across the polished table. Jackson took a deep breath, steeling himself for the difficult negotiations ahead. Hours later, after much heated debate and careful maneuvering, an agreement was reached. A joint task force would be assembled, comprising the best and brightest from both civilizations. They would work together to unravel the mystery of the Rizian crisis and find a solution before it was too late. Jackson regarded the human chosen for the team, a lanky, intense-eyed man introduced as Dr. Ethan Reeves. The xenoanthropologist had a reputation for unorthodox thinking and a knack for solving seemingly impossible problems. Jackson could only hope that reputation was well-deserved. For his part, Jackson had selected Zara Vex, a brilliant but controversial young engineer whose unconventional ideas had often put her at odds with the more conservative elements of Rizian society. She met Dr. Reeves's appraising gaze with a defiant tilt of her chin, her posture radiating a stubborn drive that Jackson found both reassuring and worrying. The newly formed team wasted no time, departing for the Rizian homeworld aboard a state-of-the-art vessel equipped with the most advanced technology from both civilizations. As they hurtled through the void, Jackson couldn't shake the sense of foreboding that clung to him like a second skin. Upon their arrival, they were whisked away to a secure, isolated facility on the outskirts of the capital city. The compound was a marvel of human and Rizian engineering, a seamless blend of their respective styles and technologies. But even here, in this bastion of scientific collaboration, the tensions between the team members were palpable. Dr. Reeves and Zara clashed from the moment they set foot in the lab, their differing approaches and worldviews sparking heated arguments that echoed through the halls. Jackson watched with growing concern as the days stretched into weeks, progress frustratingly slow despite the advanced resources at their disposal. It was during one of these heated exchanges that the first piece of the puzzle fell into place. Zara, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief, called up a series of diagrams on the main display. "This isn't a flaw," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. "It's sabotage." The revelation sent shockwaves through the team and their respective governments. The implications were staggering, the questions they raised deeply unsettling. Who could be responsible for such a heinous act? What could they possibly hope to gain by bringing the Rizian civilization to its knees? As suspicion and paranoia took root, threatening to unravel the fragile alliance, Dr. Reeves and Zara found themselves drawn together by a shared willpower to uncover the truth. They pored over the data, following a trail of cryptic clues that hinted at a far-reaching conspiracy, one that seemed to implicate high-ranking figures on both sides of the conflict. With each new discovery, the danger grew more palpable. Dr. Reeves and Zara realized that they were treading on treacherous ground, that the forces arrayed against them would stop at nothing to keep their secrets hidden. But they couldn't turn back now, not with so much at stake. As they worked feverishly to unravel the mystery, Dr. Reeves and Zara found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about their own people and each other. The lines between friend and foe blurred, and they were forced to confront the harsh reality that the truth, once revealed, might tear apart the very fabric of their societies. But still, they pressed on, driven by a shared sense of purpose and a growing bond that transcended the barriers of species and culture. They knew that they were the only ones who could see this through to the end, despite the toll. The future of the Rizian people, and perhaps that of humanity as well, hung in the balance as Dr. Reeves and Zara raced against time to expose the shocking truth at the heart of the crisis. Little did they know that the real battle was only just beginning, and that the choices they made in the coming days would shape the course of history for generations to come. Dr. Reeves leaned back from the interface, rubbing his tired eyes. Beside him, Zara's fingers flew across the holographic keyboard, her face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the screen. "There," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've isolated another fragment of the encrypted communications." Reeves leaned in, scanning the decrypted text. His stomach clenched as the implications sank in. This can't be right. Zara's eyes met his, a mixture of fear and dedication etched across her features. "It is. High-level officials on both sides, working together to sabotage your entire civilization," Reeves finished, his voice hollow. They sat in stunned silence for a moment, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. The lab around them, once a symbol of cooperation and hope, now felt suffocating. "We need to tell the others," Zara said, already reaching for the comm panel. Reeves caught her wrist. "Wait, we don't know who we can trust." The joint task force meeting that followed was a powder keg of tension and accusation. As Reeves and Zara presented their findings, the room erupted into chaos. Telos Varn, the Rizian security chief, smacked his palm on the table. "Lies! You dare accuse our government of such treachery?" Jack Hawkins, the human intelligence officer, wasn't far behind. "This is nothing but a ploy to shift blame. Where's your proof?" Lena Sarin, a Rizian diplomat, raised her voice above the din. "We can't dismiss this out of hand. The implications are preposterous," Telos cut in, his eyes narrowing as he glared at Reeves and Zara. "I think it's time we re-evaluate the human presence in this investigation." The room descended into bitter arguments, factions forming along ideological lines. Reeves and Zara found themselves increasingly isolated, backs metaphorically against the wall. As the meeting adjourned, Reeves pulled Zara aside. "We need to act fast. They'll try to shut us down." Zara nodded, her lips pursed. I know somewhere we can go, but we'll need proof. That night, as they crept through the darkened corridors of the facility, Reeves felt his heart hammering in his chest. They had one shot at this. The confrontation with Telos and Jack in the secure data center was brief and violent. Accusations flew, followed quickly by weapons fire. Reeves and Zara barely escaped. A stolen data drive clutched in Zara's hand like a lifeline. This way, Zara hissed, leading Reeves through a maze of back alleys in the Rizian capital's undercity. The once gleaming towers above them flickered and dimmed, a constant reminder of the crisis that had brought them here. They emerged into a hidden cavern where a group of rough-looking Rizians eyed them warily. A familiar face stepped forward from the crowd. "Hello, sister," Mira Vex said, her eyes locked on Zara. "I was wondering when you'd finally see the truth." As Reeves and Zara shared their discoveries with the Rizian resistance, the full scope of the conspiracy began to take shape. Mira's network of informants and hackers provided crucial pieces of the puzzle. "Erebus," Mira said, the name hanging in the air like a curse. "They've been pulling strings for years, playing our governments against each other." Reeves frowned, studying the web of connections displayed on a battered holoprojector. "But why? What do they gain from a war between our peoples?" Zara's gasp drew their attention. She had managed to decrypt another layer of data from the stolen drive. Her face was pale as she looked up at them. "It's not about us," she said, her voice shaking. "We're just pawns. There's another player, the Quill. Erebus is clearing the way for them to take control." The implications were staggering. As Reeves and Zara delved deeper into Erebus's plans, they found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about their own societies and the very nature of the conflict that had defined their lives. Time was running out. With each passing day, tensions between the Rizians and humans ratcheted higher. Reeves and Zara worked tirelessly, gathering evidence and building a network of allies who could help expose the truth. But Erebus was always one step ahead, its tendrils reaching into the highest levels of both governments. As Reeves and Zara prepared to make their move, they knew the odds were stacked against them. In the quiet moments between frantic bouts of investigation and narrow escapes, Reeves found himself drawn to Zara in ways he never expected. Her brilliance, her drive, her very alienness, all of it captivated him. And in her eyes, he saw a reflection of his own growing feelings. But there was no time for such thoughts, not with the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance. As they prepared for their final push to expose Erebus and prevent a catastrophic war, Reeves and Zara knew that failure was not an option. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shape the future of the galaxy, and at the center of it all stood an unlikely pair, a human and a Rizian, united in their quest for truth and justice. The underground resistance base thrummed with nervous energy as Dr. Reeves and Zara laid out their evidence before Mira and her inner circle. Holographic displays flickered to life, revealing a web of encrypted communications, financial transactions, and covert meetings. "This goes deeper than we ever imagined," Mira said, her eyes scanning the data. "Erebus has its tentacles wrapped around both our worlds." A grizzled Rizian rebel leaned forward, his scarred face illuminated by the holodisplay. "We can't take them head on. It would be suicide." "Agreed," Mira nodded. "We need to be surgical, strategic, dismantle their network piece by piece." Over the next weeks, Reeves and Zara found themselves plunged into a shadow war. They moved through the underbelly of Rizian society, gathering intel and striking at Erebus's operations. During one mission, they uncovered a hidden data cache. As Zara sifted through the files, her hands froze over the interface. "No," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It can't be." Reeves looked over her shoulder, his stomach dropping as he saw the familiar face on the screen. Telos Varn, their former security chief, stared back at them from an Erebus dossier. "He was like family," Zara said, her voice hollow. "How could he betray us like this?" Before they could process the revelation, alarms blared through the compound. "Intruders!" a voice shouted over the comm system. "Human strike team incoming!" They raced through the corridors, narrowly evading capture. As they reached the extraction point, Reeves caught a glimpse of a familiar face leading the assault team, Jack Hawkins, his expression a mask of commitment. Safe in a new hideout, they learned the grim news. President Perry had declared them enemies of the state. Their faces were plastered across human and Rizian media, branded as dangerous fugitives. "We're running out of options," Reeves said, pacing the small room. He turned to Zara, his eyes alight with a dangerous idea. "The Quill. If we can infiltrate their homeworld, find proof of their connection to Erebus." Zara's eyes widened. "That's insane! The Quill are isolationists, xenophobes. We'd be shot on sight." "It's a risk we have to take," Reeves argued. "It might be our only chance to expose Erebus to the galaxy." Zara hesitated, weighing the enormous risk against their dwindling alternatives. Finally, she nodded. "All right, but we can't do this alone." They spent the next days reaching out to their fragile network of allies, human Black Ops agents who questioned their orders, Rizian scientists who saw through Erebus's lies. Slowly, carefully, they assembled a team as diverse as it was desperate. In a secret hangar on the outskirts of the Rizian capital, their makeshift strike force gathered. Humans and Rizians stood side by side, united by a common enemy and an impossible mission. Reeves surveyed the group, acutely aware of the weight on their shoulders. "What we're about to attempt has never been done before," he said. "If we succeed, we save 2 civilizations. If we fail—" He let the words hang in the air. They all knew the stakes. As they boarded the stealth ship that would take them to the Quill homeworld, Reeves felt Zara's hand slip into his. He met her eyes, seeing his own mix of fear and purpose reflected there. The ship's engines hummed to life. Beyond the view screen, the stars beckoned, and with them, the promise of either salvation or oblivion. Oblivion. As the ship accelerated away from Rizian space, Dr. Reeves felt the weight of their mission settle upon him. He glanced at Zara, her alien features set in relentless drive. The journey to the Quill homeworld was fraught with tension. Their stealth ships slipped through vast stretches of uncharted space, evading patrols and sensor arrays. As they approached their target, a massive gas giant loomed before them, its swirling storms concealing a secret. "There," Zara pointed at a cluster of artificial structures, barely visible through the planet's thick atmosphere. "The Quill Sanctuary." Their infiltration was a masterpiece of precision and timing. Reeves watched in awe as their pilot, a former Rizian Special Forces operative, threaded the ship through a maze of atmospheric disturbances and hidden defenses. Inside the Quill stronghold, the team moved like ghosts. Reeves and Zara led the way, their unlikely partnership guiding them through alien corridors. The architecture was unlike anything Reeves had ever seen, organic yet mechanical, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. They found what they were looking for in a vast data hub. As Zara interfaced with the Quill systems, her eyes widened. "It's all here," she whispered. "Everything we suspected and more." Reeves scanned the files, his stomach churning. The Quill had been manipulating both human and Rizian societies for decades, using Erebus as their puppet. The conflict that had defined their lives was nothing but a carefully orchestrated prelude to invasion. A shrill alarm shattered the silence. "We've been made!" shouted one of their team members. The corridor outside erupted with weapon fire. What followed was a desperate scramble for survival. Reeves and Zara fought side by side, covering each other as they retreated. But the Quill forces were relentless, their strange weapons carving through their defenses. "Go!" Mira shouted, laying down suppressing fire. "I'll hold them off!" Zara hesitated, her eyes locked with her sister's. A lifetime of unspoken words passed between them in that moment. "Zara, we have to move," Reeves urged, pulling her away. They ran, the sounds of battle fading behind them. As they reached their ship, Reeves saw the pain etched on Zara's face. He wanted to comfort her, but there was no time. The journey back to Rizian space was a blur of grief and determination. They had the evidence they needed, but at what cost? Their triumphant return quickly turned to ash. As they broadcast their findings, Erebus struck. Suddenly, Reeves and Zara found themselves branded as traitors, accused of being Quill agents themselves. "We have to keep fighting," Reeves said as they fled yet another safe house. We're so close to exposing the truth. Their last-ditch effort was audacious. Hijacking a planetary communications array, they prepared to address the galaxy. As Reeves looked at the broadcast controls, he felt the weight of two civilizations on his shoulders. Ready? He asked Zara. She nodded, her hand finding his. Together they activated the transmission. People of Earth and Rissia, Reeves began, his voice carrying across countless worlds. We've been deceived.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.